Ever see the perfect conversation you weren't invited to but have to say something about?
I've recently seen an uptick in conversations about dark romance, and a lot of these conversations lead to a question about whether or not dark romance is something that we should consider.
No, you shouldn't. You have the right to, but you shouldn't. Just like how guys shouldn't watch, you know, spicy videos. They shouldn't, but they do. This is the exact same thing. Works in your brain the exact same way.
My biggest question about this whole thing has always been why they're so fixated on dark romance.
Have no fear, I can explain. Or should I say, she will.
The issue here is probably one of the oldest ones in existence. It's the normalization of explicit adult entertainment. Whether it's women or men who are trying to do that is pretty irrelevant, because the number one reason anyone has ever tried to normalize this kind of, explicit content is money.
Well, there are so many other genres that, in my personal opinion, do a much more sophisticated job at making dark topics appealing and sexy.
Don't. Do write a good story. Do write an interesting character. Do include thematic writing. Don't write smut.
Before we go further, I'm not in any way saying dark romance or romance in general isn't written as well as some of the other genres.
Outside of being harmful and addictive, they're almost always predictable, supportive of toxic relationships, some sort of abuse, and a fantasization typically of criminality or harm. That's just bad.
This is just my personal preference and taste in fiction. And I know someone's just gonna say, oh, but that's different. When they talk about violence or murder or whatever, they don't glorify it like dark romance does.
She's just referring to them. She's just nicer than me.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. One of the 4 Chinese classic literatures is called The Water Margin. English translation, of course. When scholars analyze it, when I learned about it in China, there's actually a term that we learned. It's called aesthetics of violence. Because that's what it is. Violence, and a lot of times extreme violence, is the aesthetics of this work. Descriptively, emotionally, and thematically.
Learn something new every day! I definitely won't be reading that.
In real life. And where does all this violence lead to? Well, the story subverts your expectation in multiple different ways. And it makes you think about violence, about oppression and power. And that's why it's a classic. Besides the incredible writing skills on its own, it makes you think, and that's what good arts do.
Oh, I see. She set it up weird. Originally designed it as some another kind of subversive schmexual, but it turns out just to be discussing very cool combat. So thumbs up.
And if you say, oh, well, at least it wasn't written for people to get off on it, unlike dark romance. First of all, what kind of puritanical voyeurism metric is that?
No, you were doing so well, hun. This is called a strongman. I have never once claimed you needed to be a Puritan. I'm a strong advocate for romance. I am not an advocate for toxic behavior. But since you want to argue, here's another example.
Interestingly, the reaction I experienced was the same reaction men talk about when they watch filmed explicit content. The depression, the difficulty focusing, the lethargy. Women who are addicted to this sexually explicit fiction don't even realize that they're literally addicted to, adult entertainment.
More importantly, if you think people are only turned on by materials that directly portray sex or romance, then you have a really limited understanding of human sexuality and probably shouldn't be talking about this at all.
The important factor to note here is this. When it comes to women's arousal, they need far more specific things than men do. So a woman's sexual entertainment taste will always be 1,000 times more specific than a man's. So when a woman seeks out a new book, she'll look for specific cocktails of tropes for that thing she needs to feed her specific hungers. Or, I guess, thirsts.
I do this weird thing where, I actually research shit before making a video. I find it important when I speak to my audience that I'm honest and I'm showing you the best information I was able to collect. There's tons of weird fetishes associated with weird things. Doesn't mean we gotta support it.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if something exists, some people are turned on by it. That's just how it is. I'm sorry. You write a serious war, political drama, where one person's waterboarding another person to get information out of them, someone's getting off on it.
I like this creator. I think she typically does a good job. This is another bad take. Tone is the most important thing when discussing writing. The expectation you have with an audience. There is a difference between somebody getting a weird fix from a waterboarding scene and then putting a ball gag on it.
If you don't believe me, going to the deep end of Reddit, you will. Using myself as an example, which is probably a bad idea, but whatever. A serious, elegant fighting scene between 2 fully clothed swordsmen is sexier in the literal sense to me than at least 50-60% of smut. And
this is from another creator called Homath. If you want the full deets, go watch his stuff. But basically what she just described was the masculinity chart that I guess she doesn't know how her own interests work. 2 guys sword fighting, badass. Oh, bad boy. He's more likely to fall in one of these. That doesn't mean you're fucking the—
No, I'm not talking about the type of story where those 2 swordsmen are gonna hook up later and this is some kind of foreplay. Just an actual fight scene. Why am I this way? Honestly, I don't know.
He always talks about, a lot of people don't talk about this line. Muscle, fit, dominant. All she just described was, I like when guys are masculine. That's not the same as dark romance. Lost the plot, hun.
So if this is a serious concern you have about media, you just can't create anything anymore.
Then she makes a category error at the end. I made this straw man argument how some people can get excited about things. Therefore, if you're against that, you can't make anything. Girl's like the female version of him right now. Yes, I'm very much against creating media that's bad for women.